The boy had been waiting for this day for as long as he could remember. He woke up early, even before the sun had fully risen, and his heart was racing with a mix of excitement and nerves. He had always loved the theater, the way stories came to life on stage, the way actors could make people feel joy, sadness, fear, or wonder. But today was different. Today, he was going to audition in front of a director who was known to be extremely strict and very hard to impress. He walked through the quiet streets, carrying a small bag with nothing but a notebook, a pen, and the worn-out shoes he had polished the night before. His mind kept going over the lines he had memorized, the notes he had practiced again and again. He whispered them softly to himself, trying to calm the flutter in his chest. Every step felt heavier as he approached the Grand Theater, a place he had only seen from the outside before. The building seemed larger than life, its doors tall and imposing, as if it were daring him to enter. Inside, the theater smelled of old wood, polish, and the faint trace of flowers from a past performance. He paused at the entrance, taking in the vast hall where countless actors had performed before him. The seats stretched in rows, empty now, but he could almost imagine them filled with an audience, their eyes fixed on the stage. His palms were sweaty, and he rubbed them on his pants, trying not to show how nervous he was. In the corner of the room, he noticed a group of people who looked like they had been through auditions many times. They whispered to each other, casting curious glances at him. He felt their eyes, and for a moment he wished he could disappear. But he took a deep breath and reminded himself why he was there. This was his chance to show what he could do, even if no one else believed he was capable. Then he saw the director. He was sitting behind a long table, his posture stiff, arms crossed. There was an air of seriousness about him that made the boy feel small. The director's eyes were sharp, scanning the room with a look that seemed to weigh every person who walked in. From what the boy had heard, this man had turned down many talented actors simply because they did not meet his high expectations. Some said he was impossible to please, and others whispered that he had never been wrong about anyone's abilities. The boy felt a knot in his stomach. When the director finally spoke, his voice was deep and calm, carrying authority without raising it. "Next," he said, and the boy felt a jolt of both fear and determination. This was it. He stepped forward, trying to keep his movements steady. His heart was pounding so loudly that he was afraid the director would hear it. "State your name and what you will be performing," the director said without looking up. There was no warmth in his tone, only expectation. The boy swallowed hard. He knew that first impressions mattered more than anything. "I am a student from the City Theater Academy," he said softly, choosing not to draw attention to his nerves. "I will perform a monologue from a classic play, and I hope you will allow me to show my abilities." The director finally looked up, his eyes narrowing slightly. He studied the boy as if he were a puzzle he needed to solve. "A monologue, huh?" he said, his tone skeptical. "Many come in here with confidence, but confidence does not equal talent. You understand the challenge you face?" The boy nodded. "Yes, sir. I understand." He could feel his knees shaking slightly, but he kept his stance straight, trying to project confidence even if he didn't feel it inside. "Very well," the director said, leaning back in his chair. "Show me what you've got, but be warned, many before you have failed. This is not a game, and I will not be impressed by mere effort. I want to see something real." The boy took a slow, steadying breath. He closed his eyes for a moment, imagining the story he was about to tell. He pictured the audience in their seats, feeling the emotions that the character would feel. He imagined himself walking in the shoes of the person he was about to become on stage. When he opened his eyes, he felt a small surge of courage. He could do this. He stepped closer to the center of the stage, feeling the wooden floor beneath his feet. The theater seemed to grow silent, almost as if it were holding its breath. He began to speak, his voice at first quiet, but gradually growing stronger. The words he had practiced 1,000 times now flowed naturally. His gestures were careful but expressive, showing emotion without exaggeration. He could feel the story coming alive through him, each line resonating with truth. The director watched, his expression unreadable. At times he scribbled notes on a pad, and at other times he simply stared, trying to catch any hint of weakness. The boy felt the weight of those eyes, but instead of breaking him, it pushed him to focus more. Every word, every movement, every pause mattered. He wasn't just performing. He was living the moment. As the monologue continued, the boy lost track of the other people in the room. The whispers and the doubtful looks faded into the background. All that existed was the character he was portraying, the story he was telling, and the truth he was trying to convey. He poured everything he had into the performance. His fears, his hopes, his dreams. Each word carried the weight of his belief in himself, and he could feel it reaching the hearts of those watching. By the time he reached the final lines, he was breathing heavily, but his voice did not falter. He looked up, meeting the eyes of the director for the first time in a long moment. There was silence, a pause so long that it felt like the theater itself was waiting for a verdict. The boy stepped back, unsure of what would happen next. The director leaned forward slightly, placing his elbows on the table and steepling his fingers. His eyes, once skeptical, now held a spark of curiosity, maybe even surprise. He opened his mouth, but no words came out immediately. The boy held his breath, unsure if he had done enough. Finally, the director spoke, his tone softer than before, though still carrying authority. "Interesting," he said. "You have potential more than I expected. But remember, potential is only the beginning. Talent must be honed, and determination must be constant. Do you understand?" The boy nodded, a small smile forming on his lips. "Yes, sir. I understand." The director leaned back again, giving a rare, almost imperceptible nod. "Good. You may leave for now. We will decide later. But I suggest you continue to work hard. Today was only the first step, and you showed that you are not afraid of a challenge." As the boy walked out of the theater, his heart was racing, but now it was filled with a sense of accomplishment. He had faced doubt, faced fear, and stepped onto a stage that had seemed impossible to conquer. He knew that this was just the beginning, that there would be many more challenges ahead. But for the first time, he felt that he had proven something important. That with courage and belief in oneself, even a skeptical director could be impressed. After the audition, the boy left the theater feeling a mixture of relief and nervous anticipation. He had done his best, poured his heart into every word, and yet he could not stop thinking about the skeptical eyes of the director. Those eyes had seen many talented performers, and many had failed to impress him. The boy wondered if he had truly made an impact or if it would all be forgotten the moment the door closed behind him. He walked slowly through the city streets, the late afternoon sun casting long shadows on the pavement. People passed by without noticing him, their own lives moving in a rush of routine. He felt a strange calm in the solitude, a quiet moment to reflect on what had just happened. He knew the journey ahead would not be easy, and that challenges would keep coming, but he also felt a spark of hope. He had taken the first step, and now he could only wait for the next. Back at home, he sat in his small room, surrounded by books, notebooks, and a few mementos from past performances. He opened his notebook and began writing about the audition, noting every detail he could remember. He wrote about the director's stern gaze, the weight of the silence, and the feeling of the stage beneath his feet. Writing helped him process the experience, turning nerves into something tangible and manageable. As he wrote, he realized that the challenge was not just about performing well, but also about proving to himself that he could rise to difficult situations. The next morning, the boy returned to the theater. He was not there to audition again, but to observe. He wanted to understand the environment, the way actors moved on stage, the subtle ways they conveyed emotion. He watched the rehearsals, noting the precision in timing, the small gestures that made a character believable. He listened closely to the interactions between the director and the performers, learning from both the praise and the criticism. The director's words were sharp, but they contained lessons, if one could listen beyond the skepticism. During a break, the boy approached one of the seasoned actors quietly. "Can I ask you something?" he said. The actor looked at him with a mixture of curiosity and amusement. Of course. What's on your mind? How do you keep going, even when the director seems impossible to please? The boy asked. There was a hint of admiration in his voice, a desire to learn from someone experienced. The actor smiled, a small, knowing smile. It's not about pleasing him every time, he explained. It's about knowing your own worth and your own abilities. The director will always challenge you, that's his nature. But if you stay true to your craft and keep improving, eventually he can't ignore what you have to offer. The boy nodded, absorbing the advice. He realized that talent alone was not enough. Determination, perseverance, and self-belief were equally important. He thanked the actor and returned to his seat, feeling a renewed sense of purpose. Watching others perform, seeing the director's reactions, gave him a clearer understanding of what was expected and how he could prepare for the future. Days turned into weeks as the boy dedicated himself to improvement. Every morning he practiced diligently, focusing on diction, emotion, and movement. He experimented with different styles, explored new ways to convey feelings, and rehearsed tirelessly. The skeptical words of the director echoed in his mind, not as discouragement, but as motivation. He wanted to rise to the challenge not just for the director but for himself. One afternoon, the boy received a call from the theater. The director wanted to see him again. The boy's heart raced with a mixture of excitement and apprehension. He prepared meticulously, reviewing his notes, refining his lines, and visualizing the performance he wanted to deliver. The anticipation was intense, but he reminded himself that he had grown stronger, more confident, and more focused since the first audition. When he arrived at the theater, the director greeted him with a nod, his expression as unreadable as ever. I hope you have been working hard, he said, his tone serious but not unkind. The boy assured him that he had, his voice steady and calm. The director then explained a new challenge. This time, it was not just a monologue but a scene with another actor, requiring interaction, timing, and emotional depth. The boy listened carefully, understanding that this was a test of both skill and adaptability. He felt the familiar flutter of nerves but also a sense of readiness. He had prepared, learned from observation, and practiced relentlessly. He could do this. As the rehearsal began, the boy stepped into his role with confidence. He engaged with his scene partner, responding naturally, letting the emotions flow honestly. The director watched intently, occasionally scribbling notes but mostly observing quietly. The boy could feel the tension in the room, but it no longer paralyzed him. He channeled it into energy, using it to enhance his performance rather than hinder it. By the end of the scene, the director's expression remained calm, but there was a subtle shift, a glimmer of surprise and acknowledgement. The boy had met the challenge not just with technical skill, but with heart. He realized that this was what mattered most, bringing authenticity and truth to every moment on stage. The director's skepticism had not disappeared, but it had been challenged, and that was an important step forward. Afterward, the boy stood quietly, catching his breath. The director finally spoke. "You have improved," he said, his tone measured. "But remember, growth is ongoing. Talent must be nurtured, and challenges will continue. The question is, are you willing to keep pushing yourself?" The boy nodded firmly. "Yes, sir. I will." He felt a sense of pride, not just for having impressed the director, but for having proven to himself that he could rise to difficult situations, learn, and grow. Leaving the theater that day, the boy felt a deeper connection to his passion. He knew that the journey would be long, filled with doubts and obstacles, but he also knew that he had the resilience to face them. The skeptical director had become more than just an evaluator. He had become a mirror, reflecting the boy's potential and pushing him toward excellence. The boy walked home with a renewed sense of purpose, ready to embrace the next challenge with determination and courage. The boy arrived at the theater early, feeling a mixture of excitement and nervousness. Today was important. The director had asked him to perform a new challenge in front of the entire casting team. This challenge was different from before. It involved not only acting but also timing, emotional depth, and working with another actor. It would test everything he had learned, and he knew the director would be watching closely, ready to spot even the smallest mistake. He entered the rehearsal hall and noticed the other actors preparing. Some were stretching, others quietly reviewing their lines. The boy took a moment to steady himself. He closed his eyes, inhaled deeply, and imagined the scene he would perform. He pictured the emotions of the character, the tone of every word, the movement of each gesture. This visualization gave him a sense of calm. He realized that nerves were natural, but focus and preparation were his allies. When the director called his name, the boy stepped forward. His scene partner was already on stage, ready to begin. The director watched from his chair, arms crossed, eyes sharp. There was no smile, no encouragement, just an expectation that the boy knew he had to meet. The silence in the room was heavy, filled with anticipation. Every step, every word, and every movement would be noticed. The boy began the scene, his voice steady at first, then growing in confidence. He carefully listened to his scene partner, responding naturally, allowing the emotions to flow authentically. Every gesture and every pause felt deliberate. He was not just reciting lines. He was living the moment, embodying the character and the story. He could feel the tension building, the energy of the scene gripping him, but he remained composed. The director watched, his expression unreadable. Occasionally he jotted something down, but mostly he observed in silence. The boy knew that silence could be more intimidating than criticism. It was as if the director was waiting for a slip, a moment of weakness. The boy focused, determined not to give him any reason to doubt his abilities. As the scene progressed, the boy encountered a difficult moment, a line that required deep emotional expression. His first attempt felt flat, and he realized he needed to dig deeper. He paused for a brief moment, inhaling and centering himself. Then he delivered the line again, this time with a sincerity and intensity that made the words resonate. He could feel the shift in the room. The scene partner responded with equal energy, and together they created a moment that felt real, powerful, and moving. The boy could hear his own heartbeat, but it no longer felt like fear. It felt like energy, a rhythm that propelled him forward. He used every ounce of focus, every memory, and every feeling he had experienced to make the performance authentic. He thought about why he had chosen this path, about the countless hours he had practiced, about the sacrifices he had made. All of it came together in this one performance, a culmination of preparation, determination, and heart. The final lines approached, and the boy knew he had to leave a strong impression. He projected his voice, emphasized the emotion in each word, and let the story reach its climax naturally. The silence that followed was profound. Even the other actors on stage seemed to hold their breath, waiting for the director's reaction. The boy took a small step back, his chest rising and falling rapidly, and looked toward the director, unsure of what would come next. The director remained silent for a few moments, his face still unreadable. Then slowly he leaned back and exhaled. There was a hint of surprise in his eyes, a flicker of acknowledgement that the boy had done more than he expected. He scribbled a few notes on his pad and then looked up, fixing his gaze on the boy. "You have grown since your last performance," he said. "You are learning to control your emotions and work with others. But remember, this is only the beginning. The real test is how you apply these lessons consistently." The boy nodded, absorbing every word. He felt proud, not because of praise, but because he had faced a difficult challenge and delivered a performance that felt true to him. After the scene, the director called the boy aside. "You have potential," he said quietly, almost as if he were sharing a secret. "But potential alone is not enough. You must continue to push yourself, face challenges, and embrace every opportunity to grow. Talent without effort fades quickly. Effort combined with heart can take you far." The boy listened intently, understanding that this was more than advice. It was a roadmap for his future. Over the next few days, the boy reflected on the experience. He thought about the director's words, the challenge of performing with another actor, and the importance of emotional authenticity. He realized that every rehearsal, every line memorized, and every moment of focus contributed to his growth. He also understood that the director's skepticism was not meant to discourage him, but to push him to reach higher, to unlock his potential. He returned to his daily practice with renewed determination. Each morning, he rehearsed lines, explored new ways to convey emotion, and practiced interacting with others. He paid close attention to small details, like timing, gestures, and facial expressions, knowing that these nuances could make a big difference. He experimented with different approaches, learning what worked best and what felt most natural. Through this process, he discovered a deeper understanding of his craft and a stronger connection to the characters he portrayed. When the next opportunity to perform came, the boy felt more prepared than ever. He stepped onto the stage with confidence, his mind focused, his body ready, and his heart fully engaged. He approached the new challenge with the lessons he had learned, embracing the director's guidance and his own growing experience. The performance was not perfect, but it was real, heartfelt, and compelling. The director's eyes followed every movement, every word, and every emotional shift. He leaned forward slightly, a subtle sign that he was paying close attention, and the boy felt a sense of validation. At the end of the performance, the room remained silent for a brief moment before applause began. The director nodded slowly, a rare sign of approval. He did not offer extravagant praise, but the boy could sense that he had made an impact. This was a milestone, a moment where he realized that hard work, focus, and heart could overcome skepticism. The boy smiled quietly to himself, knowing that he had taken another significant step on his journey. As he left the theater, the boy reflected on the lessons he had learned. He understood that challenges were not meant to intimidate but to strengthen. He knew that skepticism, when met with effort and dedication, could be transformed into recognition and respect. And most importantly, he realized that the journey was ongoing. Every performance, every rehearsal, every challenge was an opportunity to grow, to learn, and to prove that talent combined with determination could achieve remarkable things. He walked home with a sense of purpose, ready to face the next stage of his journey with courage and commitment. The boy woke up early, as he always did before a rehearsal, feeling a mixture of excitement and a tinge of worry. Today was going to be different. The director had planned a special challenge, something the boy had not faced before. It was designed to test creativity, adaptability, and emotional depth in ways that were unpredictable. As he walked to the theater, he rehearsed in his mind, repeating lines, imagining gestures, and anticipating reactions. Yet, he knew that no amount of preparation could fully predict what was coming. The theater looked the same from the outside, but inside it felt alive with energy. Other actors were already preparing, stretching, and reviewing their scripts. Some glanced at the boy, recognizing his previous performances. There was curiosity in their eyes, a silent acknowledgement that he had talent. Yet, whispers of doubt still lingered in the air, not about his abilities, but about whether he could handle the unknown challenge the director was known for. The director entered the rehearsal hall, his presence commanding attention without a word. He had a small stack of papers in his hand, which he placed on the table in front of him. His gaze swept across the room, finally resting on the boy. "Today, your challenge is not just to perform," he said, his voice calm but serious, "but to adapt. You will face something unexpected, and how you respond will determine your growth as an actor." The boy listened intently, feeling a mix of nervousness and anticipation. He had learned that the director's challenges were never simple, and that the most valuable lessons came from moments that tested more than skill. Today would require him to think on his feet, respond honestly, and remain true to his character no matter the surprise. The director handed him a script he had never seen before. The scene was short, but the lines were complex, filled with emotional nuance and tension. He was asked to perform with another actor who had been chosen randomly. The boy scanned the script quickly, noting the emotional beats, the rising and falling tension, and the subtleties of each line. He had only a few minutes to prepare before stepping onto the stage. He took a deep breath, grounding himself. He rehearsed silently, imagining the scene as vividly as possible. Every gesture, every inflection, every pause mattered. He reminded himself that true acting was not just memorizing lines, but embodying the emotion and responding to the moment authentically. The director's eyes were on him, sharp and evaluating, and the boy felt both pressure and motivation. He was ready to face the challenge. As the rehearsal began, the boy and his scene partner stepped onto the stage. The director sat silently, observing, not offering guidance, only expecting results. The scene started with simple dialogue, but quickly shifted into moments of emotional complexity that required the boy to react naturally and adapt quickly. The unpredictability of his partner's delivery added to the intensity, forcing him to stay present and responsive. Every line became a test of focus, every reaction a test of authenticity. Midway through the scene, something unexpected happened. His scene partner delivered a line differently than rehearsed, changing the emotional tone completely. The boy felt a brief jolt of surprise, but he didn't panic. Instead, he listened carefully, understood the emotion behind the delivery, and responded in a way that was both true to his character and the new energy of the moment. It was a delicate balance, requiring intuition, creativity, and courage. He felt a rush of adrenaline, realizing that this unpredictability was exactly what the director wanted to see. The director leaned forward slightly, his expression still serious but attentive. He scribbled notes, his eyes following every movement and word. The boy could feel the weight of the scrutiny, yet it no longer intimidated him. Instead, it fueled his performance. He began to flow naturally with the scene, improvising subtly where necessary, emphasizing emotional beats with sincerity, and maintaining the integrity of the character. He was fully engaged, present, and responsive, allowing the scene to unfold organically. The audience of fellow actors watched in silence, captivated by the authenticity and intensity of the performance. Even those who had been skeptical before now leaned forward, eyes wide, as the boy navigated the unexpected challenge with skill and grace. He was not just performing lines. He was telling a story in real time, adapting to every change, and remaining fully immersed in the moment. The theater seemed to shrink around him, the outside world fading, leaving only the scene, the emotions, and the connection between the actors. As the scene approached its climax, the emotional stakes rose. The boy delivered his lines with depth and conviction, responding intuitively to his partner's improvisation. The tension in the room grew, every pause and inflection charged with meaning. He realized that this was not just a test of talent, but a test of his ability to stay present, flexible, and true under pressure. The adrenaline that had once made him nervous now empowered him, sharpening his focus and clarity. When the final lines were spoken, there was a brief, profound silence. The boy stepped back, catching his breath, and looked toward the director. For a moment, the director's expression was unreadable. Then slowly, almost imperceptibly, a hint of approval appeared. The boy felt a wave of relief and pride, knowing he had met the challenge successfully. He had adapted, responded authentically, and delivered a performance that felt real and engaging. Afterward, the director called him aside. "Today, you faced something many would have struggled with," he said. "Adaptability, emotional awareness, and presence are the hallmarks of a great actor. You demonstrated all of these qualities, and more importantly, you did so under pressure. This is a significant step in your journey." The boy listened carefully, absorbing the words. He realized that the director's challenges were not meant to intimidate, but to uncover potential and push him toward growth. Each obstacle was a lesson, each surprise an opportunity to refine his craft. He felt a renewed sense of purpose, understanding that true mastery came from embracing challenges, staying present, and responding with authenticity. In the days following the rehearsal, the boy reflected on the experience. He knew that he had grown not just as an actor but as a person. The challenge had taught him resilience, focus, and the importance of embracing the unexpected. He continued to practice, refine his skills, and explore new ways to connect with characters and stories. Every rehearsal, every line, and every challenge became an opportunity to learn, to grow, and to move closer to his dreams. The boy's confidence grew, but it was tempered with humility. He knew that there would always be new challenges, new directors, and new situations that would test him in ways he could not anticipate. Yet, he also knew that with preparation, focus, and heart, he could navigate whatever came his way. The director's skepticism had transformed into a motivating force, pushing him to reach higher and discover the strength he had within. As he left the theater each day, the boy felt a sense of accomplishment and anticipation. He knew that the journey was ongoing, that growth was continuous, and that each challenge was an essential part of becoming the actor he aspired to be. The experience reinforced the idea that true talent was not just about ability, but about presence, adaptability, and the courage to face the unexpected. The boy walked home with his head held high, ready to embrace the next challenge with determination and confidence. The boy entered the theater with a sense of quiet determination. Today was not just another rehearsal. He had faced unexpected challenges before, learned to adapt, and grown as an actor. But now there was a new energy in the air. The director had summoned him to perform a scene that would be observed by the entire casting team and a few special guests. It was an opportunity to show not just skill, but the depth of growth he had achieved since the very first audition. He walked across the stage, feeling the familiar weight of the wooden floor beneath his feet. Every detail seemed magnified today. The light bouncing off the polished surface, the quiet rustle of papers from the director's table, the subtle tension in the room. He took a deep breath, centering himself. He remembered the lessons of the past weeks. Focus, adaptability, emotional truth. Today, all of it would come together. The director, sitting at his usual position, looked at him with an unreadable expression. The boy knew that expression well. It was a combination of scrutiny, curiosity, and, perhaps, a hint of expectation. The director had always challenged him, sometimes to push him to his limits, sometimes to see if he could rise to unexpected situations. Today, the boy was ready to meet that challenge fully. His scene partner approached him equally focused. They had rehearsed together before, but the director had emphasized that improvisation and responsiveness were key. The boy nodded silently, and together they stepped into the scene. The dialogue began simply, flowing naturally, but soon took on layers of complexity. Emotions shifted subtly, requiring careful attention and genuine reactions. Every line delivered, every pause taken, had to feel real, authentic, and emotionally grounded. Midway through the scene, a sudden twist occurred. His partner made an unexpected gesture, altering the flow and emotional tone. The boy's heart leapt for a moment, but instead of panicking, he embraced the moment. He listened carefully, responded honestly, and let the emotions guide him. It was a delicate balance, requiring intuition, confidence, and courage. The scene unfolded organically, with a dynamic energy that felt alive and true. The director watched closely, occasionally scribbling notes but mostly observing silently. His eyes followed every movement, every subtle shift in expression, every nuanced pause. The boy could feel the weight of the scrutiny, but it no longer intimidated him. Instead, it fueled his focus, sharpening his performance. He realized that the director's skepticism was not a barrier but a driving force, pushing him to rise above uncertainty and deliver his best work. As the scene progressed, the boy's confidence grew. He embodied the character fully, letting emotion flow naturally, responding to his partner with authenticity, and maintaining presence in every moment. The energy between the actors built steadily, creating a connection that resonated through the room. The audience, both fellow actors and special guests, were silent, absorbed by the realism and intensity of the performance. Approaching the climax of the scene, the emotional stakes heightened. The boy delivered his lines with conviction, his gestures precise yet expressive, his voice carrying the weight of genuine feeling. The unpredictability of his partner's improvisations only added to the intensity, forcing him to remain fully present and engaged. Every word, every pause, every subtle movement contributed to the depth of the scene. It was no longer just a performance. It was a living, breathing story. When the final line was spoken, there was a brief, profound silence. The boy stepped back, his chest rising and falling rapidly, and looked toward the director. For a moment, the director's expression was unreadable. Then slowly, a rare acknowledgement appeared. A subtle nod, a slight softening around the eyes. The boy felt a surge of relief and pride. He had met the challenge, embraced the unpredictability, and delivered a performance that was real, authentic, and moving. The director finally spoke, his voice calm but carrying weight. Today, you demonstrated not just skill but growth. You faced the unexpected, adapted, and remained true to your character. This is the essence of acting. Many are talented, but few have the presence, resilience, and authenticity you displayed today. This is recognition of your progress, and a testament to the hard work you have put in. The boy listened intently, feeling the weight of the words. He knew this recognition was not just about praise, but about understanding his own capabilities. The director continued, offering guidance for the future. Remember, this is only a milestone. There will always be new challenges, more complex roles, and unpredictable moments. Embrace them, learn from them, and continue to grow. Talent alone is not enough. It is effort, focus, and heart that truly define an actor. After the session, the boy took a moment alone on the stage, reflecting on the journey that had brought him here. From the first nervous steps into the theater to this moment of acknowledgement, he had faced doubt, skepticism, and uncertainty. He had learned to adapt, to trust his instincts, and to give his full heart to every performance. The lessons were not just about acting. They were about life, resilience, and the courage to face challenges head-on. Over the following days, the boy noticed a change. The director, once strictly skeptical, now offered subtle guidance and encouragement. Fellow actors began to look at him with respect, recognizing his dedication, growth, and authenticity. Opportunities started to open. Roles that had previously seemed out of reach now became attainable. Yet, the boy remained humble, focused, and committed to continual improvement. He understood that recognition was not the end goal, but a reflection of effort, learning, and growth. He continued to practice daily, exploring new techniques, experimenting with emotional expression, and refining his skills. Every rehearsal was a chance to push boundaries, to deepen understanding, and to strengthen the connection between character and performance. He embraced feedback, learned from mistakes, and celebrated progress, no matter how small. The journey of growth became a source of joy, motivation, and purpose. The boy's experience with the skeptical director had transformed him. He realized that doubt and challenge were not obstacles but opportunities to shine, to discover strength, and to develop resilience. He understood the importance of presence, authenticity, and adaptability in every performance. And he knew that the journey ahead, though filled with uncertainty, was also full of possibility. Each performance, each challenge, each moment of growth was a step toward realizing his potential, and he was ready to face it all with courage, heart, and determination. As he walked home one evening, the boy reflected on how far he had come. From the first tentative audition to the recognition of his growth, he had learned invaluable lessons about talent, effort, and resilience. The skeptical director, once a symbol of fear and doubt, had become a source of guidance and inspiration, pushing him to rise above uncertainty and embrace his full potential. The boy felt a deep sense of purpose, ready to continue his journey, confident that with focus, heart, and persistence, he could achieve remarkable things in the world of theater and beyond. The boy arrived at the theater one last time before the season's big performance. Today would be the ultimate test of everything he had learned, the culmination of months of practice, adaptation, and growth under the watchful eyes of the skeptical director. He felt a familiar mix of nerves and excitement, but this time it was tempered by confidence. He knew he had worked hard, learned valuable lessons, and grown as both an actor and a person. The theater was alive with energy. Other actors moved around, preparing costumes, checking lines, and running final rehearsals. The boy took a moment to absorb the atmosphere. He had seen this place as intimidating when he first walked in, but now it felt familiar, almost like a second home. He remembered the first audition, the skeptical gaze of the director, and the doubt he had felt. That doubt had transformed into motivation, shaping him into someone who could face challenges with courage and focus. The director arrived, his presence commanding attention as always. His expression was serious, but there was a subtle softness that the boy had come to recognize as respect for the effort and growth he had demonstrated. The director handed him the script for the final performance. It was a complex scene, full of emotional highs and lows, requiring precision, authenticity, and connection with multiple actors. The boy studied the lines, taking in every nuance, visualizing the story, and preparing himself mentally for the performance. When the curtain rose, the boy stepped onto the stage. The audience, consisting of theater members, critics, and special guests, waited in anticipation. The spotlight hit him, illuminating his features, and for a moment, he felt the familiar rush of adrenaline. He remembered the lessons he had learned. Focus on the moment, trust his instincts, adapt when needed, and pour heart into every word and gesture. The scene began, and the boy immersed himself fully. He interacted seamlessly with his scene partners, responding with authenticity, and embracing the subtle twists and improvisations that came his way. Every line, pause, and movement reflected not just practice, but understanding and emotional truth. He could feel the connection between himself, the other actors, and the audience. The story came alive through him, and he became both narrator and participant, fully engaged in the moment. Midway through the scene, an unexpected change occurred. A scene partner shifted a line, altering the emotional rhythm. In previous times, such surprises might have caused hesitation or doubt. But the boy stayed present, adjusting his performance naturally, letting the emotions flow in response to the change. He used the unpredictability as an opportunity to deepen his performance, turning what could have been a challenge into a moment of brilliance. His adaptability, honed over weeks of rehearsal and guidance from the director, shone clearly. The director observed intently, his sharp eyes following every motion and expression. He took notes, but his focus was on the boy's ability to handle the unexpected, maintain presence, and deliver authenticity. The boy felt the weight of observation but did not falter. Instead, he thrived under it, channeling every bit of focus, skill, and emotion into the performance. The room seemed to shrink around him, leaving only the story, the characters, and the truth he was portraying. As the scene reached its climax, the emotional intensity heightened. The boy delivered his lines with conviction and sincerity. Every gesture, pause, and expression perfectly aligned with the narrative. He connected with his fellow actors in a way that made the story feel real, alive, and compelling. The audience sat in rapt attention, drawn into the world the actors were creating. The boy felt a deep sense of fulfillment, knowing that his hard work, perseverance, and dedication had brought this moment to life. When the final line was spoken, the room was silent for a moment, holding the energy of the performance. Then, slowly, applause began, growing louder and more enthusiastic. The boy took a step back, his heart pounding, as the director stood and gave a rare, full nod of acknowledgement. It was a moment of recognition that went beyond words. The boy had faced the ultimate challenge, adapted to every twist, and delivered a performance that was genuine, captivating, and unforgettable. After the performance, the director approached him. "You have come a long way," he said, his voice calm but filled with weight. "You faced doubt, challenges, and unpredictability, and you met each one with courage and heart. Talent alone is not enough, but your dedication, resilience, and authenticity have shown that you have what it takes. Remember, this is only the beginning. Continue to grow, embrace challenges, and never lose the heart that brought you here." The boy nodded, absorbing every word. He realized that the journey had not been just about performing or impressing the director. It had been about discovering himself, testing his limits, and learning to rise to every challenge. He felt proud, not for recognition, but for having faced his fears, embraced growth, and delivered something true and meaningful. In the days following the performance, the boy reflected on the journey. He remembered the first nervous steps into the theater, the skeptical gaze of the director, and the small victories along the way. Each challenge had taught him something invaluable: the importance of focus, presence, adaptability, and emotional authenticity. He understood that growth was ongoing, that every rehearsal, every scene, and every unexpected twist was an opportunity to improve and deepen his craft. He continued to practice diligently, exploring new techniques, experimenting with emotional expression, and refining his skills. Every day became a chance to challenge himself, learn, and grow. He embraced feedback, learned from mistakes, and celebrated progress, knowing that each step forward was part of the journey to becoming a great actor. The boy's experience with the skeptical director had transformed him. He realized that doubt and challenge were not obstacles, but catalysts for growth. He learned to trust his instincts, respond authentically, and embrace every opportunity to shine. The director, once a figure of doubt and intimidation, had become a source of guidance, inspiration, and motivation. The boy understood that true mastery was not just about talent, but about heart, effort, adaptability, and resilience. As he walked home one evening, reflecting on his journey, the boy felt a deep sense of fulfillment. He had faced challenges, overcome doubt, and discovered the strength and potential within himself. He knew that the path ahead would continue to bring tests, surprises, and opportunities, but he felt ready. With courage, focus, and determination, he was prepared to embrace whatever came next. The theater, the director, and the experiences had shaped him, and he carried those lessons forward, confident that his journey was just beginning, and that his potential was limitless.